evening and welcome to SoCal Prep Report. My name is Randy Rosenbloom. I'm your host. Tarek Fattal from the Daily News is going to join us in a moment. We also have Chuck Price. We're going to talk a lot of NFL football. The local guys getting drafted tonight in the first round. So we're going to have a little emphasis on NFL football. Chuck Price, former agent, represented a lot of big-time names that went into professional football. We'll talk to Chuck as well on our program. But let's bring in Tarek Fattal, Mr. Daily News. Tarek, I know, what, you to track me today? That's why you're not joining me in studio?
Got a little bit of sun today in Sherman Oaks at Notre Dame, the Mission League track and field finals. It was an event to see. A soccer star from Harvard Westlake, Alyssa Thompson, plays on the U.S. Women's National U17 team, won the 100-meter, marked the second best time in the state. So athletes like that, fun to cover.
Must have been a lot of fun. So is the Boris Classic. Villa Park in prep baseball won that tournament last week. A lot of people thought they were going to jump to number one, but then in league, they followed up the win at the Classic with a loss to Foothill. So they come in this week as the number 2 team in the Southern Section. Orange Lutheran, who did well in the losers bracket, is still the number 1 team in the Southern Section and hammered Notre Dame in the consolation game. What caught my eye, Tarek, Lou scored 16 runs in 1 inning. Maybe that's why they're number 1.
I wouldn't put too much stock into it, Randy. You know, that was the losers bracket, and I think that's an opportunity for Tom Dill to maybe play players that haven't gotten a chance to play all year. Remember, Notre Dame had already finished their Mission League schedule. So every game from the Boris Classic to the end of the season, which is at the end of this week, it really doesn't mean a whole lot, especially when you're in that loser side of the bracket there in that Boris Classic. So for them to put in 16 runs in 1 inning, I don't know how much stock I put into it.
It's still a nice performance against a very good Notre Dame team. They beat them 22-1, I believe, or 22-2. It was a lopsided game. Also, we want to talk a little hoops before we get to Chuck Price and talk football. The hoops, the collision games are going to be played this Saturday at El Camino College, girls all-star game, City against the Southern Section at 4 o'clock. The 6 o'clock game, the boys' game, is very intriguing. Donovan Dent, that great performer from Corona Centennial, on his way to New Mexico, has the CIF Southern Section as the favorite in that game Saturday night.
I would say the Southern Section team certainly has the edge in that one. Ben Stoltzberg from Notre Dame, he's going to be playing in it. And I know Caleb LeCount, Larry Olienka, these are some of the guys that are going to highlight the City Section team. It'll be competitive. It'll be fun. One thing about the collision game that I'm interested that is interesting, the names that are in that game are kind of refreshing to see because a lot of times these seniors, they kind of big league these all-star games. They don't play in the local ones. So for the big names that really start in the postseason this past high school basketball season, for them to play in it, give some people to come out, watch a good game, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, the 2 games at El Camino College are Saturday. And by the way, Russell Westbrook played in the collision games many years ago, obviously playing with the Lakers currently. All right, let's turn our attention. We had the NFL draft first round tonight. 3 players locally who we knew from the high school days got drafted in the opening round, starting with Kayvon Thibodeau. We're going to talk about him in a moment, but I want to introduce Chuck Price, and he'll give us a rundown about Kayvon Thibodeau, Drake London, and, of course, the very fine Trent McDuffie going to the Giants, Falcons, and Chiefs, respectively. Chuck, welcome to the program.
Pleasure to be here. It's a little past my bedtime, but I love being here.
Oh, come on. We can keep you up to at least 9:30, can't we?
I'll do it.
Okay. All right. I want everyone to see an old interview with Kayvon Thibodeau, and I'll get the guy's thoughts about where Thibodeau fits. I know he's number 5 in the draft and how he'll do. But way back in his sophomore and again in his junior year, Eric Sotheimer joined me. We interviewed Kayvon when he was at Dorsey High School. Check this out.
You're probably the number 1 prospect for the class of 2019. How did you get so good so quickly?
I've always been big, and that was my thing, you know, being bigger than everybody. But at a certain point, it catches up with you, where I'm not just the biggest guy, where I worked a lot with my hands, a lot of footwork, a lot of technique, and I was able to, and my speed helped me a lot.
Right, you're a 3-sport athlete here, also started for the basketball team, also a 100-meter guy who's playing defensive end. Why do you keep playing 3 sports?
To show my versatility, you know, and a guy that's 6'5", 230 that can run is, you know, that's gold. So I try to stay stay humbled and just.
Thibodeau, it's really hard to believe he's going into his junior year. He's the #1 prospect in the 2019 class coming out of Dorsey High School. Had a terrific sophomore year when he had 18 sacks. Kayvon, welcome to the show. And first and foremost, what are you trying to work on? What do you want to get accomplished during spring ball?
Well, Randy, spring ball, I'm just trying to get better. I'm trying to, as in my last, our last interview, I was saying how my technique, my speed, everything is important, and that still is. I'm keying in on my all my hand work and all my feet work and my hips. So, I got to make sure I get that, 100%.
And mainly with you, I know you appreciate the rankings, but you also realize that everybody's coming after you. They're challenging you. They want to see if you really are the best. And you enjoy the challenge because you want to prove that you are the best.
Well, honestly, I love it. I love playing against great players. You can't be the best unless you defeat the best. So that's my goal. My goal is to defeat anyone who steps in front of me. Anybody else who says they're the best, work hard, outwork them, outplay them in every play, in every game scenario, in every situation.
Right. Explain your attitude towards sacking quarterbacks. You love to sack a quarterback. It's like hitting a home run to you.
I mean, it's my job. It's what I do. So, that's what I'm best at. So that's what I try to do the most, and I try to just, make sure that pass don't get out. Make sure that he don't get the run. Make sure they don't have no time.
And shortly after that time, he transferred to Oaks Christian, finished up there, went to Oregon, and tonight he's in the National Football League. He'll be in New York, and he's the #5 pick. I'm going to start with you, Chuck. You saw Kayvon Thibodeau grow up in Southern California. What kind of football player will he be at the next level? You represented a lot of people into the National Football League.
Well, I guess the short answer is you never really know. He's got everything on paper. I love the city section story. He goes out to Oaks Christian, plays for some unbelievable coaches. Jim Bankert, Kelvin Moore ran the defense. These two guys have seen a lot of players come and go, and they knew how special he was. Tom Brady, Matt Leinart, you look at a bunch of different guys and how their careers go. They're all superstars at some point, and then it becomes a matter of good fortune. Do you get the break? Are you on the right roster? And are you with the right coach?
Tarek, your thoughts on Kayvon Thibodeau?
Well, from the beginning, he kind of hit it on the head. He was really bigger than everyone at first, but then he got real versatile. He got long. He got athletic. I remember him being a senior. Yes, about 6'5", 235 defensive end. I remember him specifically telling me, I got to get bigger. I got to get bigger. Now, at the high school level, he was a monster, but, that's light for a defensive end at the college and pro level. So he got bigger, he got stronger, but he was able to keep that dynamic speed off the edge, and that's why he's the #5 pick.
And that's why he's a New York Giant tonight. Good luck to Kayvon Thibodeau. Also want to talk about Drake London out of Moore Park High School. He goes #8. Of course, he went to USC, splendid wide receiver there. Unfortunately, he got hurt in his last campaign as a Trojan, but it didn't hurt his draft status. #8 overall to the Falcons. Great wide receiver. I know you know Drake London well.
Well, I met him for the first time when he was a sophomore in high school, primarily a basketball player, started to play football. He had the perfect body, perfect temperament, tested off the chart. He showed at SC there's nothing he can't do on a football field. A great blocker, unbelievable hands, routes, great after the catch, ultimate team player.
Tarek, can you add anything to Chuck's evaluation? It was pretty in-depth.
Yeah, Chuck nailed it on the head. I think the only thing I would add, and Chuck kind of alluded to it, is just his attitude. I remember covering him. I would go out and for football season, and then I'd see him in basketball season, average 30 points a game as a senior. That's just not easy to do at any level. And his attitude was always good. Would always address me, thank you, sir, thank me after an interview, hey, thanks for coming to the game, and that's just a testament to his parents, who are also very nice people.
What's interesting about him, we had him on the Battle of the Valley, a basketball all-star game, much like the collision games, and he was in the high school basketball game. I never really saw him play football at Moore Park, but I did see him play basketball in the Battle of the Valley, and he was outstanding. Drake London to the Falcons, and he has a chance, I believe, to start immediately for Atlanta. With especially Russell Gage going over to Tampa Bay. They lost a wide receiver there, so I think London's got a great chance. Also, we want to talk about Trent McDuffie, former St. John Bosco product out of the Trinity League. He was a running back and cornerback when we knew him in Bellflower, but then he went out to the University of Washington, became an outstanding cornerback. Tonight, drafted number 21 overall by the Kansas City Chiefs. Your evaluation, Chuck.
I'm a local type guy, so any cornerback who comes out of the Pac-12, I say, is NFL ready. He plays against some of the elite wide receivers week after week, wide open passing attacks.
Including Drake London.
He's seen the best, and so he'll be ready for the next level.
Tarek, your thoughts?
I didn't get a chance to cover him personally, but I do know, having watched St. John Bosco every year, there's always some local San Fernando Valley team that goes down there and tries to see what they got against the Braves. And anyone that comes out of that program is ready to roll, whether it be physically or mentally. And now we see it. I mean, here he is, a first-round draft pick.
All right, a few local guys we expect to get drafted. One of them is Matt Corral, the quarterback. Outstanding quarterback here for a couple different schools at the prep level. Ended up at Long Beach Poly. I met him when he was at Oaks Christian before he went to Poly. He's at Mississippi. Probably get drafted tomorrow. I know you saw Matt Corral in his youth here in Southern California, Chuck.
One of those quarterbacks who just popped with all the athleticism. He won games with his arms, with his feet, with his heart. I loved watching him play. You had no doubt he was going to win that game, and it was going to be because of Matt, not who he handed it to or not who he was throwing it to. I just loved his competitive spirit, and I'd love to see him go through the roof at the next level of the NFL.
Yeah, I know he wants to be a star, and I know you like him, don't you, Tarek?
I just remember, again, kind of like Kayvon, when I remember seeing Matt Corral out on the field, and I'd come up, he was just so big, like his arms, his shoulders. I'm like, man, this guy plays quarterback, and his arm strength, his competitiveness. I mean, that's what stood out to me every time I watched him. He was just a fiery type competitor, and, you know, that's the kind of edge you need sometimes at that next level, and he's got it. So he's going to be a future NFL quarterback.
We expect him to get drafted sometime tomorrow. Another one we want to talk about is Greg Dulcich, and I'm going to let Tarek talk about him because I know you covered him at St. Francis, tight end in La Cañada. Went on, had some big games for the Bruins. What was he, a walk-on for UCLA? Now it looks like, at least by the next couple of days, he's going to be in the National Football League.
Right, I've seen headlines saying that he might be the first tight end drafted in the draft. And again, a testament. Think about St. Francis, small like Division III school. You know, they're not always trying to compete with the St. John Boscos in the modern days. They just kind of compete at their own level. And he played two ways. I think he played some defensive end, walks on at UCLA, and just develops, gets better, and studies the game. And now look at him. I mean, he's going to be in the NFL. What a great story that is. And you know what? I think sometimes when we think about those local talented kids, there's a lot of support. There's a lot of rooting on for a kid like Greg Dulcich. And here he is. I know everyone's going to be proud from St. Francis.
Chuck, he's got great hands.
He's a great athlete. But the common denominator with all these kids that we talk about goes back to unbelievable stability, experience, and quality in their high school coaching and their upbringing. Solid foundation to start their career.
All right, and the last guy we want to talk about from Southern California who we believe is going to get drafted over the weekend is Romeo Dobbs. Now, he's a name out of the past from Jefferson High School, LA City section football, went up to Nevada. He was a quarterback at Jeff. He ends up being a wide receiver for the Wolfpack and had a magnificent career. Strong, the quarterback might get drafted out of Nevada as well. Very good football player. But Dobbs is sensational, and I'll check in with you, Chuck. Your thoughts on his potential down the road?
He's your LA City athlete. He's going to make it in the NFL. He'll return punts. He'll catch the long ball. He'll make people miss. He'll be a great addition to somebody's roster.
Tarek, Dobbs has got ability.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, I think Chuck's nailing it on the head with this one. When you talk about those LA City section athletes, man, that you can kind of put them anywhere, and they will do their best. They'll try their hardest, and that's pretty much then a testament to Romeo Dobbs. Let's hope he makes an impact in the NFL.
All right, a summation from Chuck on the NFL draft, the first round, what you saw tonight, the local products. Sum it up all for us, what you think one team advanced in this draft. I thought Baltimore had a great draft. A lot of terrific players went to the Ravens. Your thoughts on who might have done the best of anybody?
The crystal ball.
Always the crystal ball. You know that.
I'm going Giants. They got a great pass rusher, great O-lineman, picked them up early. Both kids look great on film throughout their college careers.
All right, one of them, of course, is Kayvon Thibodeau. All right, let's move to another topic. Name, image, likeness. NIL. Chuck Price, you know this subject matter well. Give me the good of the NIL from a high school perspective for these student athletes, and then the negative.
The good is if you're one of those elite football players or basketball players in high school sports, there's ways to make money. The money is really being used to recruit you, to get you to the next level, to get a favor with somebody who's in the business already. I don't believe the high school kids are marketable, but they're there. They're getting offers. They're doing things in the NFT space.
Tell people what that is.
The old people don't know what NFT is as much. It's really, if you were to take trading cards and make them electronic, you put them in your digital wallet, whatever that is. I don't have a digital wallet. I think my wife tells me I do, but I don't see it. It's a trading card or a stock that gains value as you grow in your career, as your accomplishments pile up. It's like going back on a rookie card, but instead of being physical, it's an NFT, which stands for a non-fungible token. Makes no sense, but it's an easy way to pay kids money.
I'm glad you explained it, and I didn't have to do that. All right, what's the negative of the NIL from a prep perspective?
Well, college has already used NIL to create a free agency system. High school is doing it as well. So if you want to find
this way?
the rich get richer, the elite kids are going to get offers. If you want to find purity, you're going to have to go to T-ball, because anything after that, you're losing all the purity of it.
How much money can a kid at the high school level make? Now, they can't use the name of the school. They can just use their name, image, and likeness. They can't use the school. But if you're a good student athlete at a local Southern California school, what's the upside? How much money are we talking about here?
Well, there's a kid who's a junior in Southern California who's got an $8 million offer on the table for 3 years of college. So he could probably borrow against that, and if he could borrow against half of that, he's worth $4 million. When he shows up at that school, he'll probably get it.
Wow. Tarek, you have a question for Chuck Price?
I don't know if I have a question as much as I have a comment. Just kind of just the way Chuck puts it out there, which is so great. It just seems so hard to get your head around it. It seems hard to even like digest it, because like Chuck said, you'd have to go back to T-ball to get something amateur and innocent and awesome. You know, that's the truth of it, is at the college level, we're seeing the amateurism is dissipating. And now at the high school level, you know, we're seeing the same thing. Do you kind of agree with that kind of pro college, not so much amateur anymore? And now we're going to the high school level. I mean, semi-pro athletes at the high school level, Chuck, what do you think about that?
I don't want to be cynical, but it's the way it is. The rich get richer in high school sports. The schools that have fewer limitations, whether it's a private school, a school district that allows transfers at a certain level, NIL really opens the floodgates for financial gains for athletes to change schools. There's going to be a company that's located in a city. They support the heck out of that football program, and they're going to pay the heck out of that kid to tweet, "I buy my groceries at Bill's grocery store." And that's what you're going to see.
So these are glorified fans in many cases, really paying to give back to maybe their alma mater by giving money to a future star.
They're boosters, donors, and supporters. They're helping these kids. They're helping the program. And in certain cases, they're clearly helping the kid and the program.
How do you shape NIL? What do we do to make it fair for everybody? Or can we?
The major universities right now are figuring out that they don't know. If they don't know, we don't know. And it's going to take quite a while to shake out.
Tarek, you have one final thought on NIL?
I just think what's happening is at a younger stage, we're seeing high school athletes with huge followings on Instagram. They've got their own brand. They've got their own essence, if you will. And an athlete that's got 2 million followers, 2.5 million followers, maybe he's got his own YouTube channel. He can use that audience to create money for himself using his NIL, his name, image, and likeness. And so I'm not so sure I have a problem with it, but because when I think about those athletes, there's not that many of them. It sounds like there's a lot, but we're talking about like 2% of high school athletes that are going to be able to garner that kind of attention and that money. So I don't know what that does for the rest of the athletes. And like Chuck's saying, maybe it's just a matter of the rich get richer, and that alone will impact high school athletics.
Got some other subjects we want to address. Chuck has been a guy who's worn a million different hats. He's a high school football coach at Hamilton in Los Angeles. We'll get to the Yankees in a little bit as well. But he also worked as an agent, as we mentioned, in the NFL. He's been a gentleman who's worked at the XFL. And I want to talk about that because everybody knows The Rock. He's a star in Hollywood. He's one of the guys who brought back the XFL, along with Danny Garcia, his former wife, but they have a great working relationship. You were part of the XFL. It's coming back in 2023. How's it going to do?
Phenomenal.
Why?
It's got great vision. They've learned what spring league football should be about. The work that they'll do for the NFL will help the NFL cultivate great rule changes, safety changes, administrative and player development. It won't be a farm system as a minor league. It'll be an opportunity for players like Storm Norton with the Chargers, Josh Johnson, who quarterbacked at 3 different teams in the NFL, the tight end Parham. It gives players who are lost in the shuffle an opportunity to put together some film and really end up helping in the NFL. For those that don't make it to the NFL, they'll earn a living. It won't be $6 million a year, but it'll be close to $75,000 a year. The rules really favor player safety.
What makes the XFL more viable than the USFL, which has gotten a jump on them this season? XFL is coming back next season, but yet you believe the XFL is maybe where the future is.
It's got The Rock, it's got backing, and it's got a vision. And although it's not a partnership per se in writing, the fact that they're doing things officially with the NFL provides long-term stability.
All right, we're going to get to one of Chuck's favorite subjects, high school football in the LA City section. Congratulations in Hamilton. You were an assistant coach there last year. They went to the finals, lost to El Camino in the Division II championships. I know you didn't like the final result against the Royals, but Hamilton has success, and Chuck Price, you're part of that.
Well, I'm an alum, proud alum. I was a volunteer coach this year and loved the school, loved the head coach, loved the kids.
And you had a wonderful day with Warren Moon, didn't you, where you kind of revealed to the people of Hamilton a lot more. And was it a statue, a portrait that you gave back with Warren Moon at the school?
Yeah, March 24th, put up a mural, Warren's accomplishments, had a great image of him as a Houston Oiler, a Washington Husky helmet, and a nice Hamilton High logo with his number 10 right on the middle of it.
And his final game was a loss to who?
The North Hollywood Huskies.
Right, my alma mater. I was there that night at Birmingham High School in the rain. William Hunt, the fastest guy in the 400 meters in L.A., intercepted, ran it down the far sideline, and Hamilton, the Yankees, got eliminated by a Husky team that won their first 10 games and then lost to Carson. But that was many years ago, and we're just reminiscing. But, of course, Warren Moon had a phenomenal career, went on, played in the CFL, NFL Hall of Famer, great player.
Hamilton's finest.
Another one was Lee Steinberg. Did you have any relationship with him? You're an agent. He was an agent. He went to Hamilton. Anything with Lee?
We worked together for about 6 months. We had a great relationship. Just went our own ways. Okay. He was a big, experienced veteran, and I was the young, thought I knew everything type guy, and we just remained friends, not partners.
At least you're still young. He's getting a little bit older, but he's still doing well. Lee represents Patrick Mahomes, so he's doing pretty well. All right, let's talk a little football about your Yankees. We got about 5 minutes left on the show, so let's tee it up for you here. You went to the finals last year in Division II. You told me off mic, off camera, that you think you're better next year.
I think the whole Western League is better, and that's the fun part. I think Palisades and Venice are two of the elite teams in the city. Fairfax and Hamilton are on the rise. Westchester's loaded with talent every year. And I think that the fact that there could be 2 or 3 champions from the Western League next year wouldn't surprise anybody. It's like the West Valley this past year.
Tarek, you have a question for Chuck about prep football in the city section.
I think it's a pretty easy one to ask, and I want to know what Chuck thinks when it comes to the athlete. Here in 2022, going into the 2022 season, what's the biggest difference of an athlete, Chuck, the last 20 years? The athlete in 2020 and the athlete, in the year 2000, and the athlete coming in here in the 2022 season. What's the biggest difference?
The changes are so many. First and foremost, the electronic media, the internet, the use of the cell phone. 25 years ago, kids would walk out the door, throw the football around. They didn't think about being on a cell phone 24/7. That's created the I environment. It's always me, it's not team. The demeanor of the kids is all about self. And I think they become a lot harder to coach. They see a lot more, and the things that they see are usually bad. There's absolutely no home schools anymore. Venice High School is a community. San Pedro's a community. Banning's a community. And in East LA, there's some great communities. But there's nobody that stays home anymore to play at their school if they're a 5-star athlete. They're going out to a private school.
Chuck, I promised I would say this to you. I want to hear the local guys you represented as an agent who went into the NFL. I mean, these are some good names here.
Good names, great kids. Manuel White, Valencia High. Matt Leinert, Mater Dei. Brian Price, Crenshaw High. Akeem Ayers, Verbum Dei. And Reggie Dunn, also Verbum Dei. Later on in his career, I had Brandon Mebane, Crenshaw. And I also had Nick Barnett, A.B. Miller High in Fontana.
Good run,
and
huh?
A guy named Vontez Burfict.
Yeah, pretty good football player. Yeah, he's a great player. Tarek, what are you covering this week? We got about 2 minutes left.
Well, the CIF baseball playoffs are going to get released on Monday. Softball gets released on Saturday. So basically this coming up week, we got spring playoffs coming up. And so I'm not exactly sure where I'll be because we're waiting for the pairings, but it's a winner-go-home situation for the rest of the year.
I will be Saturday at the Collision Games. Sunday I'll be at you're going to love this. I love volleyball. We all know that. The Southern California Indoor Volleyball Hall of Fame. Some great names are going in. I'm going to be one of the MCs there that night. It's going to be in Orange County in Anaheim. It's going to be a fun night. Tim Hovland, the Hovs going in. It's just a great number of names, great names in volleyball's history. And I know you have a quick time. We got a minute and a half left to Tim Hovland because of your dad.
Yeah, 1975. My father was an assistant at Westchester. Hov was a sophomore, broke his collarbone. In the locker room, somebody said, all I have is a couple of aspirin here, but I don't have any water. And Hov was shrieking in pain and said, give them to me and I'll just chew them.
Yeah, Tim Hovland, one tough guy, one great entertainer, one great volleyball player. Hovland and Dodd, one of the great teams in the history of the beach. He was great indoors at USC and at Westchester. Thus, he goes into the Hall of Fame. Tarek, you're going to be in studio next week, right?
I promise I will be thinking about coming into the studio. Again, I don't know what my schedule is, but my goal is to always try and get there. Couldn't get there today. Sorry, Randy.
Oh, I'm a little down that you're not here. The 5 isn't that bad. You can drive the 5. There's no traffic ever on the 5. You know that. Chuck Price, it was a pleasure. Always great to see you. Your insight is just phenomenal.
Love being here, Tarek. I feel bad you didn't make it.
Yeah. Chuck at least took the freeway down. He wasn't worried about it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Chuck Price. And again, Chuck is doing a lot of different things. We'll bring him back at some point down the road to discuss football, probably in the LA City section with his Hamilton Yankees. A really strong squad this year. And for Tarek Fattal, I'm Randy Rosenbloom. Remember, every Thursday night, we're live right here on LA 36 on SoCal Prep Report. Remember that. And we'll see you again next week. Good night, everybody.